Whispers in the wind. The town of Eleko was small, quiet, and filled with whispers. Every street corner held stories of missing girls. Tales passed in hushed voices like secrets never meant to be told. Nobody spoke too loudly, for fear that the wrong ears might be listening. 5 girls had disappeared in just 3 months. 5 high school girls, all beautiful, all daring, and all chasing money like bees after honey. And at the center of it all was one name, Tunde. Tunde was a mystery wrapped in muscle. His skin glowed like polished bronze, his shoulders broad, his chest sculpted as if by the gods themselves. When he walked, heads turned. His smile was disarming, his voice a melody that made hearts dance. But beyond his irresistible charm, there was something unsettling about him, something unexplainable. Some said he had powers. Others swore they had seen him in places where no man should be. But nobody dared question him, because those who did often disappeared. Among the students of St. Teresa's High, he was a legend. The girls whispered about him in the hallways, giggling over his perfect body and the way his deep voice sent shivers down their spines. He wasn't just a man, he was a walking fantasy. And for girls like Ada, Feyi, and Bimpe, fantasy was everything. "Ada, did you hear? They said Chica went to see Tunde last week. She hasn't been seen since," Feyi whispered as the 3 of them sat behind the school cafeteria, their faces glowing with mischief. Ada scoffed, flipping her long braids over her shoulder. "Abeg, forget that one. Chica probably ran off with some rich sugar daddy. You know how she is." Bimpe frowned, chewing on her lip. "But it's been a week. No messages. No one has seen her." There was silence. The air suddenly felt heavier. It wasn't the first time a girl had gone missing, but the rumors swirling around Tunde were growing stronger. They had heard of his lavish apartment in the abandoned part of town, his expensive cars, and the way money seemed to flow like water around him. Yet, nobody knew what he did for a living. "Look, Tunde is fine," Ada continued, shaking off the unease. "And rich. If he wants to spend money on us, why should we refuse?" Feyi nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Why stress over school when money is calling?" Bimpe still felt uneasy, but she didn't want to be left out. "Fine, but we have to be careful." As the girls giggled and plotted their night out with Tunde, they didn't notice the pair of cold eyes watching them from the shadows. Tunde had heard their whispers. And he was waiting. The devil in disguise. That night, the air was thick with perfume and excitement. Ada, Feyi, and Bimpe squeezed into the backseat of a taxi, giggling as they fixed their lip gloss and adjusted their short skirts. They were heading to the most exclusive party in town, Tunde's party. As they arrived at the secluded mansion on the outskirts of Eleko, their eyes widened. The house was massive, glowing with golden lights, and expensive cars lined the driveway. Armed guards stood at the entrance, but they let the girls in without question. Inside, the music pulsed like a heartbeat, and the scent of expensive champagne filled the air. Tunde was waiting. He stood at the top of the staircase, dressed in a fitted white shirt that clung to his muscular body. His smile was warm, but his eyes held something darker, something unreadable. He descended the stairs slowly, as if savoring the moment, before stopping in front of them. "My beautiful queens," he said smoothly, his deep voice sending shivers down their spines. "I was hoping you'd come," Ada giggled. "How could we resist?" Tunde chuckled, taking Ada's hand and kissing it gently. "Tonight, you'll see why no one ever forgets a night with me." As he led them deeper into the house, past velvet curtains and corridors lined with strange symbols, a creeping sense of unease settled over Bimpe. She couldn't shake the feeling that they had just walked into a trap. But by the time she realized it, it was already too late. Tricks and traps. The night was intoxicating. Music thundered from the walls, girls twirled in their tiny dresses, and drinks flowed endlessly. The air smelled of expensive cologne and temptation. Tunde moved through the crowd like a king in his palace, whispering sweet nothings into ears, making promises with his hypnotic gaze. He seemed to know exactly what each girl wanted to hear. For Ada, it was the promise of luxury. For Feyi, it was wild adventure. For Bimpe, it was safety, though something about Tunde made her skin crawl. "You're tense," Tunde murmured to Bimpe as he slid a cold drink into her hand. "Loosen up, enjoy yourself." She hesitated, watching Ada and Feyi laughing on the couch, draped in expensive fabrics like queens. Maybe she was overthinking things. Maybe this really was just a party. But then she noticed something strange. A girl in a red dress stood alone at the corner of the room, staring at them. Her eyes were dark, haunted. Bimpe recognized her immediately, Chica. The girl who had supposedly run away. Heart-hammering, Bimpe nudged Ada. "Look, it's Chica." Ada turned, but the girl was gone. "Are you sure?" Feyi asked, frowning. "Maybe you drank too much." Bimpe's hands trembled. "No, I swear, she was just there." Before she could say another word, Tunde wrapped an arm around her shoulders, his touch warm but firm. "You're safe with me," he whispered. "Forget the past, tonight is about you." And just like that, her mind clouded, her body relaxed, and all thoughts of escape vanished. The vanishing act. The next morning, the girls awoke in an unfamiliar room. The air was thick with incense, and dim candlelight flickered against the walls. Their heads pounded, their limbs felt heavy. Ada groaned, rubbing her temples. "What happened last night?" Bimpe sat up suddenly, eyes darting around the lavish room. "Where are we?" Feyi stretched lazily. "Relax, we partied too hard. This place is beautiful, though." But Bimpe wasn't convinced. Something was wrong. Then they noticed. Chica's red dress was draped over a chair in the corner. Ada's breath hitched. "Bimpe, you saw her last night." Bimpe swallowed hard. "Yes, and now her dress is here." The door creaked open, and Tunde stepped inside, his perfect smile still in place. "Good morning, queens. Breakfast is ready." But his eyes held something darker, something terrifying. And suddenly, the room didn't feel so beautiful anymore. "Blood money." Bimpe's breath hitched as Tunde's presence filled the room. His perfect smile didn't match the eerie energy he carried. Ada and Feyi, still half asleep, stretched lazily, oblivious to the cold dread settling in Bimpe's stomach. Tunde clapped his hands, and two women entered, carrying trays of steaming food. Exotic fruits, eggs, and fresh bread were placed before them, but Bimpe's appetite had vanished. Her eyes flickered to the red dress on the chair. It was unmistakably Chica's. And yet, Chica was nowhere to be found. "Eat, my queens," Tunde said, sitting on the edge of the bed, his intense gaze locking onto Bimpe. "You must keep your strength up." Ada grinned as she bit into a juicy mango. "Now, this is the life. This is what we deserve." Feyi nodded, sipping a glass of fresh orange juice. "Tunde, you really know how to treat your girls." Bimpe didn't touch her food. Something felt terribly wrong. "Where is Chica?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. For the briefest moment, something flickered in Tunde's eyes. "She left early this morning. Said she had some family issues to sort out." Bimpe's stomach twisted. She knew he was lying. Before she could press further, Tunde leaned in close, his scent intoxicating, his voice low. "I have a gift for you all. Something special." He clapped his hands again, and two men in black suits entered, carrying velvet boxes. The girls gasped as they opened them. Each held a necklace with a deep red gemstone. Ada squealed in delight. "They're gorgeous." Feyi wasted no time clasping hers around her neck. "This must have cost a fortune." Bimpe hesitated. The gemstone looked like blood, dark and ominous. Something about it made her skin crawl. "Tunde, what kind of stone is this?" Tunde's smile widened. "Something ancient, something rare." Ada nudged Bimpe. "Don't be such a baby." It's a gift. Bimpe reluctantly took the necklace but didn't put it on. She forced a smile, though her mind was screaming at her to run. She had to find a way out. But how? Tunde's voice pulled her back to the moment. Tonight, we'll have an even bigger celebration. You'll meet some of my special friends. Bimpe's heart pounded. She had a feeling that if she didn't get out before then, she might never leave at all. The last temptation. Bimpe's pulse pounded as she swallowed hard, forcing a smile. Something about the room felt different, colder, as if the walls themselves knew a secret they weren't telling. Ada and Feyi, still half drowsy, accepted their breakfast without question, giggling at Tunde's charming banter. But Bimpe wasn't fooled. She had seen the dress. And she knew deep down that Chica wasn't just missing. Tunde watched her closely. You're not eating, Bimpe. His voice was silky but firm. I'm just not hungry. He tilted his head, his smile deepening. Come, let's talk privately. Something told her she might not return if she followed him. The escape plan. Bimpe's heart pounded as she followed Tunde down the long corridor. Each step felt like walking into quicksand, drawing her deeper into something sinister. The further they went, the darker the hall became, the warm glow of candles flickering against eerie carvings on the walls. Her pulse quickened. Tunde pushed open a heavy wooden door, revealing a dimly lit lounge. A long couch, deep red in color, sat in the center of the room, flanked by shelves of expensive liquor. A single painting hung on the wall, a faceless woman, trapped in a golden frame. Tunde gestured for her to sit. Bimpe hesitated but did as he instructed, gripping the armrest as if it would keep her from falling into the abyss. He poured her a drink, his movements smooth and deliberate. She forced a smile, declining with a shake of her head. You're nervous, he observed, watching her with sharp eyes. Why? Bimpe forced a chuckle. I guess I'm still adjusting to all this. He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. You have nothing to fear, Bimpe. You're special. She swallowed, nodding slowly. She needed to play along, to act like she wasn't drowning in fear. I appreciate that. A knock on the door interrupted them. Tunde frowned before standing up. Stay here. As soon as the door closed behind him, Bimpe sprang into action. Her eyes scanned the room, searching for anything, a weapon, a way out. Her fingers ran over the carved edges of the couch, then down to the floor. Her breath caught when she noticed something, a vent beneath the bar shelf. She dropped to her knees, prying at the grate. It was loose. Her fingers trembled as she pulled it free. A tunnel. It was dark and narrow, but it was an escape. She didn't think, she just climbed in. The cold metal scraped against her arms and knees as she crawled through the tunnel. Every breath echoed, every movement amplified in the tight space. A muffled voice from behind made her heart stop. Tunde. Bimpe? His voice was sharp, impatient. He had returned. She moved faster, crawling until she saw light at the end of the tunnel. A vent led into another room. Pushing against it, she tumbled out onto a cold, tiled floor. She scrambled to her feet and gasped. She was in a storage room, filled with boxes. Some marked with names. Some with bloodstains. Her stomach lurched. She knew, without a doubt, she was standing in the middle of something horrifying. Something inhuman. Footsteps approached. Panic surged through her veins. She had to get out. Now. The devil's fall. Bimpe's breath came in ragged gasps as she pressed herself against the storage room door, her mind racing. The dim lighting cast eerie shadows over the stacked boxes, and the metallic scent of dried blood clung to the air. Her hands trembled as she tried to push aside her fear and think clearly. She needed a plan. The sound of footsteps grew louder. Tunde was close. Too close. Bimpe darted behind a tall stack of boxes, crouching low. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared he could hear it. The door creaked open, and she held her breath as Tunde's figure loomed in the doorway. His once charming smile was gone, replaced by something far more menacing. "I know you're in here, Bimpe," he murmured, stepping inside. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, dangerous and laced with warning. "I told you curiosity kills. And now, you've seen too much." Her pulse quickened as she backed further into the darkness. She spotted a rusted crowbar lying on the floor, half hidden beneath a torn sack. Quietly, she reached for it, her fingers wrapping around the cold metal. Tunde's footsteps slowed. "Do you know what happens to girls who betray me?" he whispered. "They disappear, like the others." That was all Bimpe needed to hear. With all the strength she could muster, she swung the crowbar at him. It connected with his arm, sending a sharp crack through the room. Tunde let out a guttural growl, stumbling back. She didn't wait, she ran. Bursting through the door, she sprinted down the corridor, her bare feet slamming against the cold floor. The mansion was a maze, but adrenaline fueled her movements. She had to find Ada and Feyi. She had to get out. Behind her, Tunde recovered fast. His roar of rage echoed through the halls as he pursued her. "You can't run from me, Bimpe." She didn't look back. Turning a corner, she collided with Ada and Feyi, who were groggy and confused. "We have to go, now," she urged, grabbing their hands. Ada blinked. "Bimpe, what's—" "No time to explain. Move." With Bimpe leading the way, they bolted toward the grand staircase. The front doors loomed ahead, but guards were blocking the exit. Tunde was behind them. They were trapped. A loud crash erupted from the far side of the mansion. Police sirens wailed outside, red and blue lights flashing through the windows. Someone had called the authorities. The guards hesitated, uncertainty flashing across their faces. Tunde, however, was seething. His perfect composure had cracked, revealing the monster beneath. "You think they can save you?" he sneered, stepping forward. "You belong to me." Bimpe lifted the crowbar, her hands steady. "Not anymore." The front doors burst open, and armed officers stormed in. Tunde's expression darkened, but he didn't resist. He only smiled, slow and knowing, as if he had a secret no one else knew. As they dragged him away, he turned to Bimpe and whispered, "This isn't over." A chill ran down her spine. Mansion as Tunde was forced into the back of a patrol car. The air was thick with tension, the flashing lights bouncing off the grand estate like a warning that the nightmare wasn't truly over. Bimpe, Ada, and Feyi stood wrapped in blankets provided by the officers, their hands still trembling. Everything had happened so fast. One moment, they were trapped, the next, Tunde was in handcuffs. And yet, the weight of what they had witnessed bore down on them like a mountain. Detective Yusuf, a broad-shouldered man with tired eyes, approached them. "You girls are lucky to be alive." His voice was gruff but not unkind. "We've been trying to take this guy down for months, but he was always 2 steps ahead. Until tonight." Bimpe swallowed hard. How did you find us?" Yusuf exhaled. "A tip-off from someone inside his operation. We don't know who yet, but they sent an anonymous message to the station with the address and evidence of his crimes." Feyi shuddered. "So someone wanted him caught. Or they wanted him out of the way," Ada muttered, rubbing her arms. What if he was working for someone even worse? The thought made Bimpe's stomach twist. If Tunde had been part of a larger ring, then this wasn't truly over. The detective continued, "We searched the property and found a hidden chamber beneath the house. Dozens of IDs, records of girls, some missing, some never found." His expression darkened. This wasn't just about trafficking. He was involved in organ harvesting. The girls gasped. Bimpe felt bile rise in her throat. She had been inches away from being another name on that list. "Is he talking?" Ada asked, voice small. Yusuf shook his head. "Not yet. But we'll get what we need. He studied them. You should all get some rest. You'll need to give statements in the morning. As the detective walked away, Bimpe exchanged a look with Ada and Feyi. Rest? How could they sleep after everything they had seen? A few hours later, they were taken to a safe house, away from the media and the dangers lurking in the shadows. The silence between them was heavy, their minds replaying the horror of the past days. I can't believe we almost. Ada trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. But we didn't, Bimpe whispered. We got out. Feyi exhaled shakily. And he's locked up. But in the back of her mind, Bimpe couldn't shake Tunde's final words. This isn't over. She just prayed he was wrong. Justice and Shadows. The trial of Tunde began weeks after his arrest. The case sent shockwaves through Eleko, exposing a network of human trafficking and organ harvesting that had been lurking in the shadows for years. Families of missing girls gathered outside the courthouse, desperate for answers, for closure. Some wept, others demanded justice. Bimpe, Ada, and Feyi sat in the courtroom, their hands clenched tightly together as they watched Tunde take the stand. Gone was the suave, charming man they had once admired. He now looked hollow, stripped of the power he once wielded so effortlessly. But his eyes still held the same haunting darkness. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, hidden chambers in his mansion, documents listing victims, testimonies from rescued girls. The courtroom gasped as footage from surveillance cameras was played, showing the eerie depths of his underground operation. When asked if he had any final words, Tunde simply smirked. You think this ends with me? He said, voice dripping with menace. There are others, bigger, smarter, and they don't make mistakes. A chill ran through the courtroom. The judge, unfazed, delivered a life sentence. Outside, the girls breathed in the fresh air, but it didn't feel like victory. Not completely. Ada exhaled. Do you think he was bluffing? Feyi shook her head. Men like him don't bluff. Bimpe looked out at the crowd, scanning every unfamiliar face. The fear had settled deep inside her now. Tunde was gone, but the darkness he belonged to still remained. She turned to her friends, forcing a smile. We survived, they nodded. But as they walked away, none of them could shake the feeling that somewhere, someone was watching. And the nightmare wasn't over yet. Moral lessons and conclusion. The story of Bimpe, Ada, and Feyi serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of materialism, blind trust, and the lure of quick wealth. Their experience sheds light on the dark reality of human trafficking and organ harvesting, which often preys on the most vulnerable. Bimpe, Ada, and Feyi were fortunate to escape with their lives, but their experience left them forever changed. The illusion of glamour had cost others their freedom, and even their lives. Their story serves as a warning that real success comes from hard work and integrity, not from shortcuts filled with danger. Though Tunde was imprisoned, his final words served as a chilling reminder that the world remains filled with unseen dangers. Evil may hide in plain sight, disguised as charm, wealth, and opportunity. The best defense against it is awareness, wisdom, and the courage to speak out. I really hope you found this video entertaining. If you did, please show some love by giving it a like. I'd also love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments section. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you're the first to know when I upload new content. I'm always creating new videos, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Thanks for watching.